Since some of you really enjoy listening to the Mr. Wiggle and Mr. Waggle story, I decided to record it for you so you can watch it whenever you like. You can listen to the story whenever you like. Let's begin. There lived two friends, Mr. Wiggle and Mr. Waggle. They lived in identical houses, and this is how they went inside their house. They opened the door, went inside, shut the door. One day, Mr. Wiggle decided to visit Mr. Waggle. So, he opened the door, stepped outside, shut the door. And then he went up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill until he reached Mr. Waggle's house, where he knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. But there was no answer. He knocked again. "Oh, Mr. Waggle!" But there was no answer. He knocked again, a bit louder this time. "Knock, knock, knock! Oh, Mr. Waggle!" But there was no answer. So he decided to go back home. He went up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill until he reached his own house, where he opened the door, stepped inside, shut the door. The next morning, Mr. Waggle decided to visit Mr. Wiggle. He opened the door, stepped outside, and shut the door. Then he went up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down until he reached Mr. Wiggle's house, where he knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. No answer. Then he knocked again. Knock, knock, knock. "Oh, Mr. Wiggle!" But there was no answer. So he knocked again. "Oh, Mr. Wiggle!" But there was no answer. So he decided to go back home as well. He went up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down until he reached his own house, where he opened the door, stepped inside, and shut the door. The next morning, they both decided to visit each other. So, at the same time, they both opened their doors, both stepped outside at the same time, both shut the doors at the same time, and then they went up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill, and up, where they both ran into each other. They hugged. They talked about how they've been doing, how their day's going. They talked about their snack meetings with friends. They talked about their painting projects. They talked about the books that they read every day at home. And then it was time for them to say goodbye. Once again, they hugged and they decided to go back home. For that, they both went down the hill and up the hill, down the hill and up the hill, down the hill and up the hill until they reached their houses, where they opened the door at the same time, went inside at the same time, shut the door at the same time. And the next time they wanted to talk, they used a telephone. Thank you for listening.